But I'd like to welcome everybody here for the first Tyler Munis training. This is our second year on Munis. We were trained on bits and pieces about a year before we even went through implementation. So we're really not the best people to be training. We set this up because we know we have new staff here and we wiggled our way through enough things. So if somebody here has found something, an easier way to do it, then please feel free to share or raise your hand and we can help you, have you come up here and help us help you. Okay, so we thought the most important things would be like a requisition submittal. How do you submit a requisition and what information do you need to attach? We're going to show you how to approve a requisition. We're going to show you how to submit a PO change, how to approve the PO change, vendor inquiry, and this one I don't know, so I'm going to learn this today too. How to see if an invoice has been paid, how to upload your P cards, how to do an account inquiry, how to do printing of budgets. We're going to do budget adjustment and project string entry. And then we'll take questions after each one of these items. We only have 2 hours. And if we happen to run, I want to make sure everybody gets all their questions answered. So if we tend to go over, we'll try to maybe regroup sometime next week if we can't make it through all the items today. It'll be just a moment. We're waiting for IT. And my name is Nancy Pauley. I'm the Director of Finance, and I had brought some of my expert financial here, and we'll go around and introduce everybody. Go ahead.
Testing. Hi. I'm Dolores Olvera. I'm the Payroll and Accounting Manager, and I've been with the city for 8 years. 7.5 years. I supervise payroll and accounts payable.
I'm Patrick Weinhop from Accounts Payable. I think I know most of you.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Mooney. I'm the Assistant Finance Director.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Beltran, and I'm Executive Assistant to Nancy.
Hi, I'm Heather Kane, and I'm the Accounting Manager.
Okay, we're going to get started. Evelyn's going to start and show you how to do a requisition submittal.
I'm wondering if everyone knows how to get to requisitions. So it's fine. We go to financials, we go to purchasing, purchase order processing, and requisitions, entry or requisitions. The easiest way to do this is to go through requisitions. We can add it as a favorite, so we don't have to look through. Okay, so requisitions. And then we go to add. And I'm just going to test it.
And who's ever entering, their department should automatically come up if you see on the left-hand side.
But just keep in mind that you do have to change the buyer. So you'll change the buyer. The needed by date, I'll just say today. I usually leave the PO expiration blank. And receive by amount. And receive by amount is best only because when you pay the invoices, you're paying by amount and not by quantity. So the description, in this case, you'll probably include the contract number and the description of what the PO is for contract. In this case, I'm just going to add a test. And a vendor. You can check that box there and look up the vendor, or we can go to Vendor Central. And I think Dolores is going to go over that. but I'm just looking for any vendor at this point. And I'm going to use Office Depot 100, 172. Oh, gosh.
I would use 103,
103, 100?
103, 900.
I think I tried to use that earlier and it wasn't working. Is that the no? Okay, 103, ODP. Okay, so if you enter the vendor really quickly, if you notice here, 103, geez. This. Okay. If I just hit enter, sometimes that doesn't work and it'll give you an error message. You might just want to wait for the 103, for the vendor to populate. And if you enter the amount right away, it'll give you the tax amount. So what I like to do here is clear the tax, because a lot of the times if you have a $100,000 contract and you don't want a tax on that, you only want the PO for the 100,000 and not an additional tax on top of that, you'll want to remove the tax on that and then just put the amount that it's for. I'm just going to put 100. And it didn't populate the tax here. So I'll save that. Add allocation. And if you know the account number, just go ahead and enter it. Otherwise, you can hit this arrow here and select the account you want to use. That way you don't have to go through Account Central or Account Inquiry. And then save that. At this point, I'd like to go back and then attach documents. Select Requisition Attachment. Taking some time. You got an error? Yeah. Okay, so we'll skip the attaching.
That's how you would attach it.
Okay, so this is how you would attach. Select the attach here. Select the requisition attachment, and then we'll go through the attachment process a bit later. At this point, you are, let's say I submitted all my attachments. I am ready to release. So I'm going to release here. And then, okay. After you release it, you really can't update it. You can't do anything. If it's rejected, you'd have to create a new requisition. Do you want to show the approval?
Yeah. We do have written instructions, because this is clumpy again, trying to train you guys, and some things are uploading and some things aren't working, so you'll have the access to those documents. Yes? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anybody have questions so far?
Can I, if it hasn't been approved yet or rejected, you just can't do anything with that requisition until it's been rejected and back to you.
Chris, where's my email? So once she releases it, it goes to your department head to review it, and then it comes to me, and then after I review it and I approve it, it goes to procurement. Okay, so you'll get an email. Once you get an email, you'll come into Munis where it says approvers. And here it is right here, the requisition, 100,000 test. And in order to view the whole entirety of it, you need to check the box here and then click over here. It's slow. And then I review the account number, the amount, and what I generally do is, my job is just to check the account number and make sure the dollar amounts are in there. When it goes to procurement, they have other items they look for. So if the account is okay, it matches, and the dollar amount is in their budget, I go up here and hit approve and save. Any questions so far?
Is there, Kristen, is there a PO on here that I can use without having to go on the live system? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me. Just bear with me. Okay. So I'm going to work off of another PO, a PO that's already been converted and generated, and I'm going to create a change order for this. So you can look up a PO many different ways. You can go to Purchase Order Central, Vendor Central. In this case, I went through Vendor Central. I pulled up, let me go back so we can see that. So I went through Vendor Central. I looked up my vendor. I went to Purchase Orders, and this is the PO. So I'll click on the PO number. Select OK. And in order to complete the change order, I'll go ahead and select change orders here. And update. And then at this point, I'm just going to tab through here and okay, I don't think we have. I don't see add. Nope, I don't think we have access unless I'm not seeing it. Yes. That's right. Thank you. this PO was rolled over. So this is a 22 PO, and we're going to add funding for this fiscal year. But it's, yes. Okay. And I'm making it 200,000.
I
We don't-
wanted to, while you're doing that, Evelyn, I wanted to mention that description area. I know when she was entering the requisition for that, she had put test, but if you look at the description there, it clearly states what amount is for 2022 and what amount is for 2023. And she's increasing it by 130,000 for that fiscal year 23 to bring the total PO to 200,000. That is what we want to see in descriptions, especially if it's a multi-year contract. We do, in the AP world, we do not want to see refer to contract number or agreement number. What that means is that our AP office is going to have to sort through 40 pages of a contract, and your payment may not get in. So please, in the description, clearly state what period that this requisition covers. If it's from fiscal year 22 to 24, then that's what we want to see. We've learned on these agreements and these contracts that sometimes it's on, it's stated in the contract that it's maybe the signature date, that's when it starts. Or maybe it's clearly defined in the first paragraph that it goes from which period to which period. Or sometimes it says after so-and-so happens, then it's going to be in effect. AP is supposed to follow the rules of the PO, and they can't do that without the description being very clear on what this PO covers. So I don't want to go over that field lightly. It's more important for us, but maybe not for others. So please be descriptive there.
So I know we talked about the tax. In this instance, if it automatically calculates the tax, so I'm going to delete that because it calculated the tax. I don't know if you saw earlier, it said 218,000. And once I did that, should update that. Okay, 200,000. Modify tax groups here. And the detail line is fully allocated. Just going to proceed.
And so we can move on. The approved PO change is exactly the same as the requisition. You go to your approvals, you click on the one you want to approve, you click on the box on top, you review everything and hit accept.
At this point, you would just release.
Oh, you there? Is that where it is?
It's not going to work because we couldn't attach anything.
And it would be right here, approve. We can't do it in this right here. Okay, now we're going to move on. Any questions so far?
Did that work?
Did that work? Yeah. Okay. Lauren?
It really depends on what kind of project this is. If it's an all-inclusive project with labor, materials, everything included in one price, there's no tax. It's called a construction. They're going to send you like a construction invoice or where everything's included. But if you're itemizing materials, I believe that the procurement department wants to see that tax amount listed and correct, because it has to match the quotes that you're getting for materials.
Doesn't that create by line item when you enter each line item? Is there a choice for the taxes? So one line item would be
Yes.
hardware, one would be software, one would have tax, one would not have tax.
We would prefer an AP to have the line item include the tax. So you can have your line item for taxable items that includes the tax, your line items for non-taxable items don't include any tax, and not use the tax fields, unless anyone has an objection.
Is that okay with procurement? Yeah, and it gets pretty crazy in the AP office when you're doing line items. We have found over the last year, and it really sticks to that initial tax amount and won't let the AP office change it. And instead of rejecting the PO back and having you redo it, they've worked out some sort of way. But if we ever go decentralized, which is the goal, where the departments are entering their invoices, it's much easier if you follow the way Patrick was stating, with a tax line item with tax included, and not really using that tax field. That tax field is not, we don't use that for paying sales tax. We're being charged sales tax. There's no monitoring of how much tax we're getting charged, other than we're looking at the invoice and seeing that we got charged the right amount of tax. But in the finance world, we're not looking at that line item any differently than the rest of the product.
So let me follow up. So what I hear that you're saying is do not ever uncheck that sales tax box for everything. If you have an item, if I bought a computer, I'd put computer one line item, and then the second one would be sales tax and whatever's.
Computer line item or any taxable item, including its tax, and then any non-taxable item, which wouldn't include tax. It would just, like, what's an example, Kirsten? The disposal fee for computers is non-taxable, so that would be on a separate line. But we don't need tax on a separate line. So taxable items with tax and non-taxable items just on their own.
Does,
AP personally would prefer just to have one line with the total of the quote, and then we just pay down on an amount basis. How do you do that when of items that they only receive? Are we using receiving?
so I know that the work orders are just being implemented through fleet, I think, and facilities. So they're tracking that inventory, I believe, but they're the first ones that are tracking inventory. A line item, as you're stating with different lines for each item, let's say it's waxy. We're not tracking waxy, you know, all the different, you get pages and pages of items. None of that is useful for anybody to put line by line, unless it's something procurement would like or track all those line items. We just need a whole total. I remember, I think it was Waxy, where one of the departments was having a real problem with discounts because they were discounting items, and all we need is a total. We'll just, as we get invoiced, we take down that total with each invoice.
Well, they have to do, like, be accountable, so if I ordered 5 rolls of paper towel, then when I get the packing list in, I'm gonna make sure that I got the 5. And that goes against, the packing list should actually go with the invoice, but,
Right. They've never known. They've never, I mean, I think they might get something from the company when they place the order, like the quote, so they could go off the quote versus what the packing slip says. But it's not any different in the system as far as they're concerned, because they've never received items in the system. They still don't. They don't enter invoices. They still don't need that in the system. And in the future, it's cumbersome for all sides, for entry side, even like Office Depot, you might get a back order. That's something that you'll need to track on your own to make sure that you get all the product that you ordered. Right. Right.
And Waxy does the same.
Yeah, they'll invoice you just for the product that was sent. And I think Waxy does it where they show the back ordered items on the invoice that you didn't get charged for. So unless it's an inventoried item, which we're just getting into, I don't know if they're gonna be receiving in the system in their, and that might be an IT question, because I don't know anything about it. Or maybe, I don't know if we have facilities here. No?
as long as it's going to the same account number, you can use that, you could buy anything from Waxy on that purchase order.
Yeah, so just.
Clients notice the amounts going down, they don't know what it is. Our job is to track.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, so we just track it ourselves. We have the original code and we know it's the things.
Right.
When we get to the end, it should be.
Right. Or heaven forbid the tax changes before you.
Any
get the
other
product.
questions before we move on to vendor inquiry?
As long as there's a quote, I think procurement is okay with that. The quote gets scanned in, and that can always be referred to in the documents, in TCM, in the document management system. Yeah. Their tax. Yes. Procurement won't like a higher invoice, or a change order on that original quote. They're not gonna be happy with that.
And what I didn't discuss was the attachments that are required. And in this case, if it's a contractual services, I would go ahead and upload the certificate of insurance, the agreements, the proposals, the business license, and all of that, so that it can be approved.
So I think it's my turn. Oh, that doesn't work, this computer. Where do I go? Sorry. Is there a mouse I can use? I don't know what I touched over here.
That is one of the shakiest mouses I've ever used in my life.
It's really bad. Okay, and the keyboard sticks, so bear with me. Okay, vendor inquiry. There's couple of different screens depending on what information you're looking for. Vendor inquiry and vendor central. They're right here in my recent activity.
Do you want to maybe, because some people may not have this in their favorites, can you show
Yeah.
everybody how to go into the Tyler Muni box, and you can go right into the box and type it?
Yeah, so I personally don't like using any of those drop downs. I know what I'm looking for, I type it in and hit enter, and every page in the system that you have access to with the word vendor will show in this search drop down. So when you find the page that you want to save into your favorites, right click on it, you'll get the add favorites, and then it comes over onto this side, so it should anyways. Okay, there we go. It will come, sorry, put that up. It'll be here every time you log in as a favorites page. Recent activity is also here. That's what I collapsed. So any of our recent activity. And then you can also, if you want to get fancy, because these do not sort in alphabetical order, you can resort, you can delete by clicking on that pencil. I'm not going to look at recent activity, so I'm going to close that. Or it doesn't close, sorry. Go back down here to financials. And you can resort these or delete them from here.
And in that folder we mentioned earlier, for with the training materials, there's a quick guide. It'll show you like shortcuts, control this, control that, or how to use this, I guess, landing page. So it says quick guide in there. If you want to pull that up, maybe print it and use that as how to navigate through this master page.
I have 3 videos in that link that I saved probably a year ago, but they are still helpful. I just watched them. If you prefer to learn by video, I didn't do a step-by-step procedure. I guess I prefer video, so those are saved in there as well. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I'll go to Vendor Central first. So If you're new to using Munis, these blue banners at the top, something I always mention is just make sure you're on the right page that you want to go to, because these pages, sometimes it opens a new tab, sometimes it just changes in the tab that you're in. There's no real rhyme or reason, but look at that blue banner and make sure that you're where you need to be. So you can search any vendor here. We'll use Office Depot, I guess. One of our favorites. In this screen, these green grid lines changes your view. If you have a lot of vendors that pop up and you want to list them, just click back and forth on that. And we're going to go ahead and click into this vendor. And something important that AP knows that maybe others don't know is, this is not the screen I thought I was going to. Sorry, I thought I was in a different screen. Cancel that last sentence that I said. So in the Vendor Central, you can find, Evelyn was in here looking for different things. You can find the invoices paid. You may also see one in here that's not paid. Is that correct, Patrick? If it's not paid, it won't say paid, but it's in the system to be paid. So you also have attachments here that I can't go to right now to show you, but there will be possibly, there should be invoices, a check copy, anything pertaining to this purchase.
I personally think it's best, if you're looking for invoices, to use
Invoice Central. So this is one way, and again, there's many ways depending on what you want to look for. You can, if you're looking for a vendor history report, just remember that most of these screens that you go to have an Excel export, and that is the report. That's what we're going to give to you. That's what we use. Hopefully it works. And there's 3 tabs on this export. Invoices, and from here you can of course sort and do all sorts of things to find what you're looking for or to give someone the information that you need. So there's not really a reports area that you might see in other systems that are used, and you want to look for, where do I find the reports? They're just there on all the screens. So export anything that you want to take a look at.
I have a question. So if I come into this area here, Vendor Central, and I have the invoice in my hand, and I want to see if it's been paid, can I just type it under the word invoice?
In here, yes. So any invoice that you might be looking for, and I don't know. So as you type the numbers, it'll come up. The date here, is that the date?
That's the invoice date.
That's the invoice date. This check date here will be on our pay schedule, our AP pay schedule. That's the date that it was paid, so you can trust that that's correct. And then if we get into the TCM, the document manager, you'd be able to see what address it was mailed to. So that could be helpful if the vendor's looking for their check. Maybe it was mailed to the wrong place. So those are invoices, and then checks. Make sure to put the right time frame if you're looking for older items, purchase orders, and contracts. Vendor inquiry is going to give you different information on the vendor itself, not so much the invoices. So when we first got in this system, if you've been a user of Finance Plus, our legacy system, you were used to certain vendor numbers, and we captured those under this user define tab. So if you click on the user define tab and then click search, you'll get a field here for our legacy vendor number. And 00616, Patrick says, is Southern California Edison. So maybe you haven't used them in a couple years, we're in this new system, or you have a claim voucher that you look back in somebody else's files and said, we did pay them before, and what was that number, and you want to use this vendor, you can look up those older vendors with this legacy vendor number. And then I want to take you back to the main tab, because if you click search in the main tab, you can search by any of these white areas, anything that's not grayed out. So if you want to find, I don't know, the active only vendors, and accept, and you want to get a listing of those active vendors, click yes, continue, and you see down here in the left-hand corner, it says one of 3,626 vendors. You can always arrow over here at the bottom or click browse. Once you have that, that you've defined you want active, once you click on browse, it'll show you only those active vendors, but in a list format. Might take a few minutes.
Or you can hit Excel and download the whole list in Excel.
Yeah,
do a
and
sort
then
like that.
you can also click Excel in that next screen, which is where I was gonna go, but before you hit to export, you can modify these columns by right-clicking in here. You may want more information or less information, and it allows you to do that. It also allows you to move the columns around. And any header area, click into that header area. There might be more information in there. We've seen it on purchase orders where you don't have a project string filled, but you can get it. You just have to right-click in there and then click on the box next to project string, and then voila, you have now the ability to add that project string to your purchase order. So just keep that in mind, that you right-click and find other options, and then you can export again with your vendor list. So there's different ways to get whatever it is you're looking for. If you wanted, I don't know, if you wanted to search for the city of Palm Springs, that might be something that, I don't know, Community and Economic Development might want to know. What vendors are in Palm Springs. So search the city only, and then you'll find vendors that are only in the city of Palm Springs. So down here, hit enter. As long as we've spelled it correctly, it will give us, so I have 1,004 vendors that have an address in Palm Springs.
I think if you have a vendor that you're not sure if we've used before, the guaranteed way to search is to search by the FID number. So get their W-9, hit the search box and go to the FID box.
I don't have one to search, but. Vendors, the vendor central page? We're in vendor inquiry. I think
Any
it might,
questions
it
so
might be in
far?
here. So as you click into these tabs, I don't think you can change anything at this point. AP has it pretty locked down to make changes, but you can certainly view the addresses and information that might be on these tabs. If we're going over a screen today that you don't have access to, you go back to your desk and search for, make sure to submit an IT ticket, and they will give you that access. That's kind of what we're doing is we don't really know who has what or what jobs you do, and something might have been set up for you that you need additional access to other places in the system. Okay, so I'll move on then to how to see if an invoice has been paid. In those screens, you can do that. You can go from that inquiry screen that we're in. I don't know if, let's see, over here, invoice inquiry, it's just gonna take a lot longer. You're gonna go to screen, to screen, to screen, and it might ask you some questions in there that you don't know how to answer. But what we like, what Patrick likes, is in invoice And again, I'm gonna type it in the search bar, hit enter, Invoice Central here. And we click on that, and I think this is where I thought I was earlier, so Office Depot. We really like this screen, and I'll show you a few tricks that I recently learned from Patrick and Elisa. So I'm gonna select the list view, and this due date here, this is always going to match the check date. So it lists, I think, oldest to newest, or maybe it lists by number. I'm not sure what this is listing by right now. But if you click in any of these headers, and they're kind of grayed out so you can't tell, but you'll get a little arrow, a sort arrow. So click again on that, and you'll get the most recent. So this was paid June 22nd. So that's helpful to see. You can also click into the invoice. I'm not gonna do that quite yet. But there's something on this screen that I just found out. If you go to advanced search and type in the vendor. Why didn't it find it?
You have to click on it.
Oh. It's picky. Okay, click on it.
Yeah.
And then click out of there. But down, if you scroll down, see this little box here, exclude unposted invoices. We wish that that was not clicked there. We want to unclick that button and then click search. I'm not sure if this is a good example or not. Let's see. And then go ahead and sort again by due date. This isn't a good example. What's a
Because
good
we don't use
example?
Office Depot anymore.
Oh, we use ODP. ODP? Thank you.
103,900.
ODP. I'll search it. Okay, going back to that advanced. Double click. Scroll down, and it's already unclicked. Good. It's still
It
in
didn't.
Office Depot? I need to pay attention. ODP.
You have to click on it.
It still has Office Depot on there? It's finicky. There we
So you
go.
have to hit the negative key to erase them.
Oh, I have to hit this?
Yep.
I don't want to erase it. I finally got it in there. And the box is unclicked, so when you hit search and resort, you'll see that these are approved. All of these are approved, and they're going to be paid tomorrow on 8/18 because that due date is going to be the check date. So if you want to find out if you submitted something and it's in the check run, this might be a helpful way to do that. And then you'll notice down here that these have been paid, and those were paid on 8/4. Okay, you can also search by invoice number like we did in the other screen, or description, or any of these fields. And you can export to Excel in the same way. I hit everything?
Okay, before
Excellent,
moving on, any other
okay.
questions regarding the vendor inquiry or vendor payment? Okay, let's work with P cards.
Purchase cards, purchase card statements. Purchase card statements is where all of the P cards get loaded into. And I wanted to bring up an example of Patrick's email that he sends out when these get loaded into the system. He sends it out to all P card holders. Whether you have purchases in that month or not, you'll get that email. So if you had purchases, you should be receiving a statement or be aware that you have had purchases. And in his email, he states the dates of the period for that statement. And in that email, he says the date of the statement. So you can search, again, you can search for your own card, but you might want to search by the code that he puts in that email. So for our last P card run, it was 7/22/22. And that will show all the cards that you have access to. So if you're a supervisor, department head, whoever's doing approving, you may have several cards that you want to look at. And if you are wanting to look at all of them, not just one, type in that code, you'll get the access to the cards you want to look at. And then down here in the left-hand corner, you'll see how many cards pop up for your view. And then you could easily review what's in there and approve here, and then scroll or use the arrow to move over to the next card. Now,
Or same, you can hit the browse and see the list.
or hit the browse and you'll see those, just those 73 that I have access to right now. Here in, let's see, I'm gonna clear my search. You can clear your search, oops, sorry, by just leaving all the fields blank and hitting accept. That clears everything. Now I have 943. I'm gonna hit browse. And I'm gonna be able to see all converted, all released, all statuses of all of the cards that I'm able to see. There is a filter box down here where you can type in what status or anything, any of the selections in the column, but I'm gonna do new status and then just hit enter and you'll only see the new cards. I chose in the test database to look at Kirsten's because she has many purchases, but I can't see them because the screen's so large. We would have to scroll each little one there. Thank you. Does anyone want, are all of you familiar with this process of entering purchase orders or want to go through the going into each transaction? I don't know what we need in this training. Anyone? Anyone? Okay, thank you. So you'll come in here and just note everything here says there's an updated column, that it has not been updated. There's a little column right here at the very beginning and it's blank here, but you'll see that those two columns will change as you go through this. So we're on the purchase card statements page. On the statements page, we want to attach your copy of your P card statement, the paper copy that you receive in the mail. It will look, it should look just like this with all the items listed. If you don't have a copy, if you didn't receive it in the mail, Brian Sotak Rossman, am I saying it correctly? In procurement, he will get you that copy ASAP, and then you can scan it in. So don't wait on that. It's ASAP, right? He has nothing else to do. Okay, so I can't go into TCM, but that's where you'll attach the statement only. Do not attach invoices when you're at this level. We'll want to go one by one to each of these transactions. So you'll click on the very first transaction. Once you're in this transaction screen, it says you're in transactions. Again, make sure you know which screen you're in, because we've had a lot of calls where they're not seeing the right buttons because you're in a different screen. What? Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to do that. So you're in this one transaction, and this is where you're going to make changes to certain items. You'll want to click Update, and then the fields will turn white that you can access. I don't know why you have the ability to change the card holder for this transaction. It should be grayed out in our opinion, but tab through there. If the vendor matches up with the tax ID number, you'll have a number in this field. In this case, we don't have MailChimp in our vendor list, so it's not, 999 is fine for the vendor. This description is very important, the charge description. Don't leave it the same, and don't say MailChimp. Don't repeat. If it's Amazon, don't repeat Amazon supplies, or we already know it's Amazon. We want to know different information. We want to know.
What and for who, or what and for where?
Yes, what it is, what are you purchasing, and who it's for, or where it's for, the location that it's for. A department like facilities is ordering for all different departments. So that's something important that the department heads, after the enter of this card, they're going to want to look at that description, and it's going to tell them what it is. So make sure the description is updated. Commodity code, that's not used. So if we could gray it out, we would. Commodity code, do not use on P-card purchases. Contracts, I don't think we're using contracts. We never see contracts. Don't use that field. Work order,
Your choice.
I don't
If they
know.
want to use them in the
You want to,
future.
there's Karen. I didn't see you earlier. If you want to use the work orders, I don't really know how that system's working. That'll be something with IT. Invoice number.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. If it has an invoice number, put it in. Yes.
We don't need numbers when it comes off of like a store receipt from Ralph's or Target or any, you don't have to worry about typing those. It's really most important for vendors we might use and pay via check. So if you're charging Federal Express, it's really important to get that invoice number in, just because the system will catch that we don't double pay it via check.
You may have been contacted by AP. I'm going to talk about this invoice number. You may have been contacted in the past because we didn't have an invoice number, because the document that was submitted was not an invoice. Or maybe it was an invoice from a mom and pop small place that doesn't have invoice numbers. We need invoice numbers. It's a requirement in the system because we used to, long time ago, we would receive a sales order or a work order, and it listed everything, all the pricing, as if it were an invoice. It had all the other information on that sales order, work order. A couple weeks later, the company switched that sales order over to an invoice. In their system, it wasn't an invoice until it was shipped and received, right? So then it processed as an invoice, they mailed it out to the department. Well, we had it entered and paid as a sales order number, let's say 123. But the invoice comes down the road 2 weeks later, the department receives it, they process it, and we enter the invoice number as 567. Well, the system doesn't ding us that it's a duplicate. The only way it's going to ding us that it's a duplicate is if it's the actual invoice number. We always need the invoice number. If it's a mom and pop smaller place, we still need to tell them to give us unique numbers for the invoices. They will double bill us, not on purpose, but they will. And it can be processed twice. It can be paid on a P card, and then it can be paid on a purchase order. We've seen it done. So that's why that invoice number is important. If it went through a claim voucher, let's say, and now we're entering as a P card, it will ding us that it got paid already. And that's an auditor check when they come in. They want to see that our system tells us it's a duplicate. Okay, transaction amount. We really just, these transaction amounts are the amounts that we were charged. There's really not anything we can do on this side of the screen. I think AP has been handling the use tax part of it, right?
Yeah, and the department account reps have gotten really good at catching.
Use tax, yeah. Out-of-state vendors won't charge tax, and we're required to pay it. That's where use tax comes into play. So if you have product, it needs to be taxed, whether it's on the invoice or not. So when it's not on the invoice, we use use tax, and then we pay it straight to the state of California. Then down here in the allocations, this org 100 and object 59997 is a P-card import account. It says in the description P-card import account. Don't leave it as P-card import account because it's going to get rejected to you. That is a holding account only. And before Patrick does any of his processing over to convert these over to AP, he makes sure to do a check on that 59997. Make sure to change the Oregon object. Again, there's always these little, the 3 dots here to search, or you might just have your account numbers. Go ahead and type them in. As you type them in here, the description will change according to whatever you've selected. I don't know how much project accounts are used on P-cards. Have you seen that?
A few times.
So,
Sustainability and,
so you
but
can
not a
enter your
lot.
project account there.
you can use it if you have a project string that you want to attach to an expense, you can input it here.
You can input it. If you don't see that project account, again, right-click here, and it might be hidden. If I unclick this, it'll be gone. Put it back over. Okay, if you want to split this charge into 2 different accounts, you'll change the amount here and tab over. As you tab, you'll get another line. You'll select a new account number that you're going to charge the remaining amount to, and the system will automatically put in the difference. Or if you want to split it 3 ways, or however fancy you want to get, you can split it. So once you have finished making those changes, go ahead and hit accept. It doesn't like something, it's a duplicate
Use the same
account.
account twice.
Accept. Okay. So now it's all grayed out again. Then you want to attach the invoice or any pertinent information for this charge. Sometimes it might be a brochure or flyer, because there's events in recreation and whatever it is that is going to tell us what we need to know.
Does it bring up the pop-up screen at all
Or,
when you click on the attach?
oh no, it won't load at all.
So I think most of you, I've beat this drum a lot, but when you click those attached fields in both the statement page and on the transactions page, there's 2 choices. On the statements page, it'll be P-card statement and then one called Munis attachment. Don't ever use Munis attachment. On the other transaction page, it'll be P-card transaction or a Munis transaction. Don't ever use the Munis. Always use the one that says P-card, P-card. Because when we convert the statements over to accounts payable, anything that was attached as a Munis attachment will not transfer into the accounts payable system. So when the auditors go in to look at a transaction in the future, it won't have a receipt attached. That's why we're rejecting, but everybody's been really super great about learning that. And
If we could remove that, we would.
yeah, if we could delete the Munis attachment, we would happily do that.
Okay, when I was going to bring up the email that Patrick sends out to everyone, it clearly states when the due date is for this. Please, please, please get these in as soon as possible. Give your department head time to review it based off their schedule. We're running 3 weeks or so.
2 weeks.
Well, we want to be tight at 2 weeks. It affects
Well, we look,
these ladies behind me.
yeah.
And Patrick starts getting hounded. Sorry, not hounded, asked very nicely. So when we wrap up use tax, after he's put all the necessary use tax, that's due to the state by the next month.
We pay state tax on a quarterly basis, and so we cannot be late, otherwise we get charged penalty plus interest, and it's pretty steep. So we have found that P-cards were entered and delayed, and so we missed those amounts, and we had to amend and remit it, and it creates quite a bit of a debacle. So I would be so appreciative if you can get it in as quickly as possible.
And once we have to go back and amend the returns, the tax returns, it raises a red flag, audit.
Yeah.
And we have enough work. We don't want the auditors coming out here auditing us, then they're gonna come to you and ask you questions. It's just a nightmare.
So that due date's really not arbitrary. We'd really love if everybody could live up to the due date. And if you have somebody else approving it, just give them a day or two at least.
We also, while these are in motion, these P cards, there's a very large negative amount in one of our accounts. Nancy doesn't like to see that big negative amount there. So we all get these really pretty reports from her, and we need to clean those up. So that just means clean this up. So that's another reason we have a tight time schedule for a lot of things. City manager wants things, council wants things, got to be moving all the time with this stuff. So if we didn't have to, we wouldn't force you and blast you and say you're late and all those things, but we have some pressures our own. So did I hit everything? Rejections. I just want to show you really quick. If you happen to get a rejected, I'm back to purchase card statements. I'm going to browse. I'm going to change my filter to say rejected. Hopefully it likes that. Okay, so this one's in a rejected status. Double click on that. You won't be able to make any changes. There's no update box here. I think I need to scroll over. No, not there. Do I have to go this? Oh, that's where it's at. I can't scroll up there. Okay, so to update once it's been rejected, normally if the screen, let me make the screen. There we go. Okay, so this is the screen you'll see. There's a reactivate button right here. That's all you need to click on if it's been rejected to reactivate your ability to make changes. Patrick doesn't typically like to reject, but he will send you an email of the problems that he sees. Your department head or someone else might reject it to you. I think that's it. Any questions? Simple? About this?
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Is that too loud? Jeez. I probably don't need this thing, but I'm going to use it anyway. Everybody still with us? We good? Okay, awesome. I'm going to go over the next four. Do I need to turn this thing down or something? Okay. It makes me nervous. Okay, I got the next four subjects, so account inquiry, budget adjustments, budget reports, and then we'll finish up with project string. So that's what we do. And through my years of finance, whenever I do finance presentations, I usually bring margaritas and have puppies playing in front, but I wasn't allowed to do that today. So, but doesn't really raise your level of interest, but it does keep you coming back. Okay, so we'll do account inquiry. Get my glasses on here. Does anybody use the account inquiry in Munis? Okay. Where am I at? There we go. Okay, let me get out of here. So I will say why I am going through this thing that I've only used Munis for about 6 months, so I'm the least experienced up here.
I'm going to go to your hub.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So seriously, if anybody has any better way to do something that we're going over, don't hesitate to interrupt. Raise your hand, ask a question if you have any questions. Want to be as interactive as possible. So account inquiry. So at its highest level, why would we ever use account inquiry? And for the most part, the account inquiry screen just shows the level of detail that's in a particular account. So if you're a person that regularly runs like budget reports or any reports that show like actual versus budget expense, and you want to know maybe why your contractual services account is close to the budget. You thought you had a lot of room, and it looks like you're getting close. You'll use account inquiry to pull up all of that level of detail to see what has been coded to that account throughout the year. Maybe something got miscoded. Maybe somebody put something there that shouldn't be there. We need to reclass it out. So that's why you would use the account inquiry screen. So again, I'm going to search here. Actually, I think it's in recent activity. So yeah, here it is.
But again, whatever you need, you could type in that box. It's just I'm telling you, this mouse is crazy and this keyboard. So in that box, type account inquiry, it'll bring you right to there.
Okay, so here's the main screen. From here, we'll go to search, and we'll type in our org. So I'll just use the finance org. Does everybody know, their own org here, or does anybody need to be explained what the org is? Okay, so this is finances org, and we'll just look at the contract services account. Yeah, it is. It is misbehaving, isn't it? There we go. Okay, so punch in the object number. If you don't know the object number, you can use the 3 dots to search. That will be a theme throughout the next few presentations, and I think you've seen that being used quite a bit already. Hit accept. And so when you hit accept, it brings up contractual services. And then here you can see fiscal year 22 is still the first year shown. But whenever we close out fiscal year 22, which will be sometime, I believe, at the end of August, when you do a search on account inquiry, the fiscal year 23 will be first. Right now, 22 is first, but 23 is last, and here is where maybe you want to do your searching. So this shows you your revised budget or your total budget, and then any actual expenses, and then anything that has been encumbered. So if you want to see the level of detail, you can click on this yellow envelope. And here is the level of detail of everything that has been paid out of contractual services. So you have your vendor, any additional comments, check number, amount. You can scroll through all this detail and see if anything looks like it shouldn't be there. Or if you just want to check to see if something's been paid, this is where you can do it also.
You could also go to the top and PDF it or put it in Excel. Go to see at the top, PDF?
Yeah, the PDF or display, we'll just display it to your screen. Or Excel, yeah. And I don't do this very often.
Now, Chris, if you go back, can you just type in the org? Will it give you all of your accounts?
It will. So, oops, yep, went back too far. So yeah, so if you wanted to scroll through everything, all of the accounts in your budget, and you didn't feel like doing a report, this is sort of the long way to look at it, but you can. So you punch in your org when it happens. You just hit the org, do not use an object, and then hit accept. And what happens is you can see this 1 of 23. And so what that does is it says there's 23 objects or 23 accounts in the finance org. And then you can click through, here's salaries, you can click through and see any other account that's in here, the budget associated with it, any actual expenses that are with it.
You could PDF them all and give them to your supervisor or whatever need be.
Yes, okay. That'll give the list. Hey, I learned something.
It also shows you a detailed current status for the total department.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Patrick.
Can you show certain columns and hide other columns? like Dolores was showing for this one also?
Okay, right-click on this,
Okay. Sure, I'll show you that. Yeah, right-click.
and then you
Oh,
can add or
yeah,
subtract.
and then there's the account, or you can take out the project, object. Okay, there we go. Perfect. See, this is really a total team effort.
Because you guys don't care about journal entry.
Yeah. Right.
I have another question. Go back to that column thing again. Can you make a column smaller or no? Yeah, hit browse. So if you want to see more, because I know these account numbers aren't as large as they say, you can hide some so that you get a full picture. And once you set this up, it's a one-time setup. The way you like it, customize it for yourself.
There's the Excel version, gives you everything.
It will also give
okay.
you the last 3 years, and when you right-click on that box, if you only care about this year, then unclick all those other boxes. Or just delete them from your Excel schedule, whatever's easier for you.
Anything else that we want to show for account inquiry?
I just wanted to add that when I'm in here, I'm not real familiar with the new accounts, just because I go back and forth with payroll, and all of you probably do that. So we're using old accounts and new accounts, but I'll go into that description if you scroll up just a little bit. I just wanted to show, scroll up and then search. And then I'll do in the account name, I'll do over here on the right, I'll do an asterisk, like train, and then an asterisk at the end and at the beginning. Train. And yeah.
His keyboard is not,
And then enter, hit enter. And it'll show me everything with, or whatever you have access to, mind you, that has the word train in it. It's just another way to help with these numbers and things, whatever you're looking for. And then you can scroll through whatever options come up.
I personally like to use on the left-hand side when it says fund. I know what our fund is. I don't always remember the different department orgs because there's so many of them. So generally, that's easiest for me to just click on the 3 little dots. You just hit, like, double-click on general fund. Then go to the next one, the 3, yep, and click on that one. And I pick IT, anything, yeah, double click on that. And then you could also do it with, to me, that's faster than typing or anything else. There you go. Or, yeah, I don't know if there's any project set up. And then I hit accept, accept. There you go. I like to make things easy. I'm lazy. I have other things to do. Any
Anything else?
questions? Any questions so far? Okay, let's move on to the next thing.
Okay, we'll move on to budget adjustments.
Does anybody here do budget adjustment processing? Vonda does a heck of a lot.
Vonda can give the training. She
Yeah,
does a lot of
Vonda, you
them.
want to come up here and do it? I think you'd probably be better than Chris. I've never even done a budget adjustment, so this.
You haven't done one? Okay. All right, well, I've only done them for like the last 2 months, so, or about the last month. But, okay, so start from the hub. And there's a couple of different ways to get in, but I think the easiest way, the most simple way, is to get in through accounting entries. But first, before we do that, let's kind of review why we'd want to do a budget adjustment. So a couple of different things, and you can help me with this too. But, you know, if the budget gets passed by council, and let's say you forgot to include something in your budget, or there was something new that maybe city manager wanted to do, a new study of some sort, and that didn't get into your budget, that would be a reason to do a budget adjustment.
Yeah, I don't want to say that if you forgot something, just add it, but it's more or less.
But it happens.
Forget what he said about that, but if you have to take, Vina does a lot because there's a lot of items that have to go to city council for approval, and there'll be a staff report attached. So if she has a project that's moving forward, even though it was approved in the budget, larger projects also have to, they have to take it, they have to do bids on it, and they have to write a staff report. At that point, she will then process a budget adjustment for that project and also do a project string for tracking purposes.
Yeah, and it's important too, because those, a lot of these budget adjustments go all the way up to city manager for approval, and they will always require some sort of staff
Attachment.
report or a bid approval of some sort. Always has to be attached in your budget adjustment, or in your budget adjustment, or it just won't get approved.
And something, let's say you're wonderful and you got a wonderful grant coming through. You want to process a budget adjustment to get it in the budget. So you're going to put the revenue in and you're going to put an expenditure in. So it's a zero effect, but it's still in that account for you to spend.
Okay, any questions on any of that? Okay, so to get to the budget adjustment, we'll go to the accounting, I'll go back real quick to, go to accounting entries. If it's not in your recent activity or financials, you can just search for it here. And then click on budget amendments and transfers. Add budget amendment. And all of this stuff is usually pre-filled. So there's two types of budget amendments you can do. You can do the one Nancy gave, which would give you a revenue piece and an expense piece. Or if you just need the expense side of it and there's no revenue associated with it, then you can do just what they call a one-sided entry. So if we're going to do a two-sided balanced entry, it's always going to be amendment type 1. And this is important because if you're doing a one-sided adjustment, which is amendment type 3, and you try to, well, no, take that back, sorry. If you do an amendment type 1, and it's only a one-sided, you're only doing the expense side of the budget amendment, then it won't let you process it unless you choose the correct amendment type. So here we're going to do, and this number 1 can be used for like if you're transferring a budget from one department to another. Or if you're doing a grant, like Nancy said, you want to do revenue expense, you always want to choose number 1. So all of this usually gets pre-filled for you. Scroll down here. You have to have some sort of short description or it won't let you move forward. Add line. Okay, so here, we'll do a two-line adjustment here. So if you have a project string, so let's say you're doing a grant and you wanted to have a project, and you already have a project string established, click on the 3 dots, search for your project string. Is it going to search for me? Oh. What, is it below? Oh, no project strings. Oh, there we go. Was it there? Okay. There we go. Okay.
There's one.
Okay, so if you do. Oh, gosh. I know, it's all right. That'll bring up that. So if you have a project string already established, it will automatically put in the GL account number for you as well. Let's see, line description, short description. So here's increase or decrease. So if you're adding a budget, for both revenue and expense, you're always going to want to use increase. If you're doing a budget transfer from another department, then you'll do a decrease for the department you're taking the money from and an increase to the department that you're adding to. No, I don't know what that means. I've never seen. That is true. Yeah.
If I miss it.
Just complete this guy here real quick. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. One thing I forgot. So if you're doing a grant and you got the E, you're going to do an expense and a revenue side. You do the E for expense. That'll put in your expense number. And then if you have a revenue piece to it, oh gosh. F for funding source will be your revenue line. Brian.
Gotta go slow with her.
Okay. Did it take it? It didn't take it. All right. Well, anyway, that's what you do. Yeah.
You'll do it just perfectly, I promise.
And if you have any questions, see Vonda. All right, so that, I'll save that. Okay, so you save it, and then once you're done doing your budget adjustment, I'm just going to go into one of these. Oh, I can't.
Well, you could see at the top where it says pending, then that goes to your department head, then it comes to me, then it goes to Cindy, and then it goes to the city manager. So if it's not back to you in the day, now you know why it has to go through so many people.
Okay, and the last thing on the budget adjustments, once you're done entering your line items, you always have to release it. And when you release it, that releases it into workflow. And then it'll go through the various stages of workflow all the way up to the city manager. And once that's done, then somebody in finance will post that budget adjustment, and then you'll be able to see it actually in your budget.
Vonda, do you get an email when it's gone through all the steps? No. And I have to check periodically to post it, so
Yeah.
maybe IT can look at something like that. We get notifications for approval, but once everybody approves it, I don't get a notification. So every couple of days I go in there, check, and then post it. But she should, once it's totally complete, the employee should receive an email that the steps have been completed. To post it. Right. Okay.
Okay, any questions on budget adjustments? Nope. Okay, budget reports.
This is I know this is the most important to most of you here, because you always say, how much do I have left? How do I do this? How do I do that? So this is probably one of the most important ones, I think, because it's all about me.
All right, real quick. So, let me see here. I'm going to search for it so it doesn't look like it's in my recent activity. I'll punch in budget. Here it is right here. Okay, so the actual title is the year-to-date budget report. So we'll pull this up. And again, same with a lot of the account inquiries or the reports you run, you'll hit search, and you'll punch in your department code. And that's all you need to do for the budget report is just punch in your, oops, sorry. I put that in the wrong spot. In your org.
Battery ran out.
You don't have to type.
Okay, have the org code in, you hit accept. And from here, you can choose to PDF it, you can choose
You
to
gotta go
Excel it.
You gotta do the report options.
Oh, that's right, sorry. Report options, and once you set these to your liking, they usually do not change. So you would want to set, so I just keep it where it's at with fund and org. Do you have anything specific you want to add there?
No, scroll
Okay.
down a little bit. And this is kind of important because, put full GL, print full GL account. And then it's very important on the right-hand side where it says the period that you want to report. Okay, so it could be period 2, which will give you, put period 2 in right now. It'll give you period 1 and period 2. Okay, so let's put period 2 and then go to additional options. So additional options, I use additional options if I want to look at the account detail. So if I want to see everything, you would hit their print journal detail. It'll give you all the purchase orders, all the payments that have been made. And then you'll have to put the period down below. So go from period 1 to period 2. If you want to select a certain account, you could do it the way we did in through account inquiry, or we can do it this way. But unselect that right now. We're not going to print journal details.
Unselect
Yeah, unselect, I'm sorry.
that one. Okay.
And then accept.
Okay.
Back,
Back.
and then PDF or Excel.
I'm just going to hit, well, I'll do PDF. I usually just display it, but.
I always PDF it. Because I print this every week for either for payroll or once we get, the AP goes out, and then I can look through all the accounts real quickly for the whole city.
These are the pretty little reports that she leaves for us that says,
What's this?
clean up this account, please.
What's this?
It didn't
Okay.
come up, so I'm just, oh,
How about,
wait.
no,
No, that's not
it didn't PDF?
Yeah, it didn't come up. I'm just going to display it so you can see what it looks like. But on the PDF, ooh. Well, that's not what it usually
I
looks
think,
like.
yeah, that's not pretty.
Well, you have to play around with it, with all, whatever you want on there. Again, some people want to see encumbrances, some people don't want to see encumbrances. Some people don't care about the adopted budget, they only care about what's in there now, the final budget.
I just went to Excel. So this is what it'd look like in the PDF form anyway. You have your original appropriation is your original budget. If you ever did any budget adjustments or budget transfers, they'd be in this column, and that would, the total of the two would be your revised budget. And this is what you have year-to-date spent in each of your line items. And down here is all your totals.
And then what you'll see, your encumbrance. So what it'll do is take your year-to-date expenditure plus encumbrances, subtract that from the revised budget, and that's what you have left.
So in this case of contractual services, 433 minus the 422, and there's only $11,000 available budget in that line item.
And,
Any
oops, sorry.
questions so far on this one?
And I just want to remind you, if you go back to your desk and you don't have budget reports as an option, send that IT ticket so that you get access to that, depending on what you need.
And in the folder that we created for the training that Chris had sent out earlier, I think we did screenshots on those to walk you through those. If you have any questions, please email me or Chris on those.
Okay, nobody has any questions? All right, then the last thing we'll go over is the project budget adjustments. And so, oops. Oh, man. No, I'm good. Okay. Turn your mic off. All right, so on a project string, a good example will either be, like a big construction project like Vonda does a lot of these, or if you have a grant. So our finance practice is, if you have a grant, you always want to associate a project string with it, because especially if that grant has reporting that's required, because then you can easily pull up your project string and look at everything that's been spent to that project to date, and you could use that for your reporting. So we're just going to go over the project, it is better, the project budget So the general ledger, the general ledger and the project ledger, and Larry, you'll help me, correct me if I'm wrong, are two different things. So if you put a budget into your general ledger and you have a project string on the general ledger side, that is not going to carry over to the project ledger, as we have found, right, Vonda? That you have to actually go into the project string on the project ledger side and punch in your budget. So that's the reason why we're doing this, because if you don't have a budget in your project string and you try to expense something to your project string, it will not let you do it unless there's a budget in it. Okay. Okay, so we'll go to this budget adjustment screen, and you'll do add. And this automatically populates with a date and a source and a journal number. You can put in a short description if you want to. And you'll come down to the journal entry line. So this is very similar to the budget amendment and the budget adjustment on the general ledger side. If you want to do a one-sided entry, this doesn't make you put in an amendment type of 1 or an amendment type of 3. You just have to do the entry. So we'll do we'll go ahead and do this like it's a grant, and we'll put it in both a revenue or a funding source side, and we'll put it in an expense side. So we'll do a project string. Oops, sorry, I always do 26. Is it not showing up? Yay. Okay, I'm just going to select one here. You select it. And this again, increase or decrease. So we're adding a budget, so it's always going to be an increase. Your amount. You tab through, and it gives you a second line. So you can do as many project strings as you want to here. It'll all go in at one time. We're going to do a funding source here as if it's a grant. Got to make sure I choose the right one. This will be increase again. And so you have a balanced entry. You have an expense of $10,000 and a funding source of $10,000. So you'll hit accept. I think. Let me go down here and make sure. Yeah. Okay, it looks like it's been updated. So on the project's ledger side, to hit, so again, you have to release this into workflow. So, oh, correct. Yep. Any project, so that's good for all budget adjustments, whether it's project ledger or general ledger side. Always put proof of why you're adding budget dollars in. So here to release it into workflow, you have to hit the menu portion and then hit the brown skittle release. And it's been updated. And then it'll go through workflow. And then once it goes through its entire workflow, then we'll get it in finance and post it, and it should be included in your project ledger budget.
This is also another instance where
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll work with Larry on that.
not
Yeah, that's right.
I just want to thank everybody for coming today. I know that accounting is really boring for some people. We kind of like it. So, and trainings can be boring too. I hope you learned something today. If you can add anything or that we can improve, like I said, we just kind of poke around and everything. So if somebody here knows a better way to do something that we did training on today, please speak up. We're welcome for anything. Any comments or recommendations? Okay, is there anything that we didn't teach you today that you, wow, okay, yes. That is a very good question.
Is this,
Yeah, yeah,
is this from, like an invoice from accounts receivable?
yeah. If they could go into AR Central or something like that and to pull up that account to see the customer account and it'll show paid on there, but I'm not sure.
So- Okay, so if you go to customer, if you search for. Oh, no.
I know, right? You get tortured with the mouse and the keyboard.
What happened? Okay.
Purchase order change
Not see
order
anything.
completed.
You have to go to the hub.
Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, so if you go to Customer Central, it's the same thing as like Vendor Central that they showed earlier. But if you come in here, I don't know if you know of a name. Skycap Shuttle. There we go. So in here, it's the same sort of situation. You can, let's see.
Go down to,
Well, I was just gonna kind of click through each to kind of show you what it is, but, you know, this is gonna be, you know, you can filter it for however long you want. I'm just gonna do 9 months, and it should give you whatever's in here. This is the most current outstanding balance. If you go here, it should give you however many months or whatever time frame it is that you choose. This is a good one too. I'm just gonna go to 30 days. I don't know how often this one is billed. Is it a monthly? Okay, yeah, okay. I was gonna say, usually I see much more, so, okay. So here you go. So here's some payments it looks like that they made.
is it a payment or is it?
Well, if you aren't in Customer Central, you can, if you know what account it goes to, you can go into account inquiry that we showed you earlier. You can go in there.
I think this is the easiest way to do it. And like I said, use that little box that you saw at the beginning where you type anything in, play around with it. And see
Yeah, these are the only payments they've made.
email.
Yeah.
Go to.
So these are the invoices here. Over here, it looks like 0 is due, so they must have paid on July 13th. You can click in here and it'll probably give you information on the invoice.
And again,
I just like Customer Central because you can start clicking around and it kind of takes you to different information. Here's your bill inquiry. You can look at what was billed. If you're looking to see what was paid, it says here what was paid.
and everything is exportable.
Yeah, so it looks like the last time they paid was on the June 30 for 147, and this is the receipt number. They're behind. Well, this one says June 30. Yeah, so I would use Customer Central and account inquiry if you know your account.
Something we didn't get to is Project Central and Project Expenditure. Those 2 pages may help if you deal with projects. We don't have enough time to go into them, but search for those when you get to your desk, if that's something you're interested in. And it's very similar. Central's pages all look the same. And the expenditure, Project Expenditure will show you which account the project is linked to.
We got 5 minutes to spare. Isn't it crazy? That that's like, I'm so glad, I don't know how anybody would do that, use that during the council meeting.
to upgrade it.
Hi, how are you? Good.